They call it music. 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 They call it.
Special edition of the thing called Double Rock. We are live in the land of the living. I go, Father.
Everything good, you know. You just say my line, so I have nothing else to say. It's just good to be here on this wet Sunday afternoon.
Cool wet Sunday afternoon, boss.
Thank God for all things, brother.
You know how I go.
So let's pop in.
Same old, just a different day.
Alright.
You say we're in the land of the living, boss. Gotta be thankful.
Yeah, very much so. Well, today's show is being brought to you by our usual sponsors.
Gas up at Friends of Gus here where every day is Friday except Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, the days we close.
Yeah.
Every other day is Friday. So you can come up here, have yourself a good time. We open from 6:30 p.m. until. Good drinks, good food, good company, good atmosphere. You know how the thing goes. Also sponsored by Party Crashers for all the best mixed drinks in the world. You can also catch Party Crashers at Fox and this coming Tuesday, boss. Be live. Come get your mind right. Emancipate yourself, Foxhill. Also, Classy Chef will be next door to Party Crashers, so when you don't get wet, you can sober up with some nice, you know how the thing goes, nice food. All right.
We're also sponsored by Nelly Productions, producer, Percy Blyden. You can find him on Facebook and YouTube. And Junkanoo, the newest installation for myself in terms of photography. Find all my photographs on Junkanoo.com. Not Junkanoo Paparazzi anymore. In the news, yesterday the Foxhill Congos had Congo Day, and they had a bonus.
Yeah.
They had a bonus. The two groups, well, it was supposed to be three groups that didn't participate in the Emancipation Day Russia, which would have been the Valley Boys, Saxons, and One Family, were slated to participate. The Valley Boys were not able to make it, so it was Saxons and One Family. And I heard it was a great night. So maybe the Congos may want to incorporate inviting a bigger group to that. To boost the numbers. It only makes sense. Yeah, and yesterday was also Genesis Stakeout. I wasn't able to attend, but I hope you guys did well. And like we always talk about Genesis, because it seems like Genesis is the one group that always doing the inklings or the little extras to make things happen.
Yeah.
Well, big ups to all the fellas and ladies at Genesis and FYP for putting on another fabulous, I guess, fundraiser. Yeah. That's what you need to do sometimes, because you just can't
depend on sponsors for us
all the time, right? And with that, you did send me a flyer. Let me just get that real quick.
Support your Junkanoo.
Right. Right. There's going to be a South for Xavier Nordish. Everybody knows him as Bees. This is I think he's a One Family brass member now.
Yeah,
he used to be a member of Saxons. He was also a part of One Love at a period of time.
He was Volley Boy too.
Volley Boy. So, come out and support. And it doesn't matter what group he participated in or who he used to rush for. It's a good cause. It's a South for Bees. It's the Native Medical Fund. It's just $12 for chicken, pig feet, turkey, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at St. Thomas More Church. It's right down the road from us.
And that's when?
This is on the 18th. Right.
That's Saturday coming.
18th, yeah. So it's
Okay.
12, the 7th, 12, and it's a donation of $12. It's at St. Thomas More Church.
Right there.
Well, it's school and church,
Church,
same thing,
everything.
right? Until they move across the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Makes sense.
basically it for the news that I know about. Anything you would like to add?
I mean, I ain't get on what the news.
Okay, if anything else we'll add at the end of the show.
Yeah,
Um,
bring it
Without further ado,
in. Yeah, so.
all right then.
No, thing out.
Today is a very special day for us at Double
Double
Rock.
Rock.
We have a very special guest, as you can see, in studio today, Mr. Silbert Ferguson, the chairman of the JCNP. Got that right? Good, excellent. This is a very proud moment for me because I've always wanted you on the show, and not just to say validates the show that we have the president, the chairman of the JCNP. It's just a matter of fact that we have you here. We can ask you questions in this environment, and I'm just excited. So, Mr. Ferguson, without further ado, can you let our audience know exactly who you are, how you got started in Junkanoo, all in a microcosm sort of way?
Well, boom.
There you
Double
go.
Rock.
There you go.
Right
Well,
there.
here we are. Thank you so much for having me, and good afternoon to the Bahamas, and good afternoon to all of your followers on Double Rock. We have been trying to make this happen for about, 2 years?
2 years.
Okay, finally, we are just on the edge of the season, so, I'm basically reclining,
Yeah.
and so in another couple of weeks, I'll be on my toes. But Junkanoo has started for me from my childhood because, everybody had to get to Bay, but I got to Bay in a different way. We had to wait until 5 o'clock in the morning for my mother to walk us out to Bay Street. So everybody was up from midnight, okay, and you're waiting, you're all dressed up, and then at 5 o'clock, the doors will open and she will basically escort you downtown. And then we got into a little bit of scrap here and there, and then I got into serious Junkanoo back in the early 70s. Okay, I met a beautiful young lady who was a Junkanoo fanatic. Okay, and she was rushing from the age of 4. Okay, and she was I say she was crazy, eh? Okay, but her parents allowed her to get downtown at an early age, and so she was really into it. And then I joined forces with her. But of course, the block I grew up on, we grew up in the edge of the Valley Boys. And, my entire family were Valleys until I break away. I ended up with my first group, my first official performing group, the Music Makers. I spent 10 years with them. And then I moved on to the Saxons. When Jackson Burnside returned home, he invited me to come and go with him for his start back at the Saxons. And so I went to the Saxons. I spent 10 years with the Saxons. And then I was a part of forming the One Family Junkanoo and community organization, 25 years now. And so basically, as you wrap it up, I have been around this thing for about 46 years. Okay, I've had the pleasure over the last 9 years to serve as the chairman of the JCNP. And I have many stories that I can tell you both on and off the field. Okay, and so hopefully today we'll have a show that will allow us to open up on some of the backdoor details that people don't know. They get a chance to hear it, and then we just have a good conversation.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Now, speaking of the Music Makers, that means you were in that era of fine pacing.
Fine basic.
Fine art.
Fine art. As we like to call it, fine art.
Yeah.
In today's environment, we have all these new materials. How does the JCNP manage new materials coming into Junkanoo, and how do you feel about some of these new materials, i.e. a couple of years ago it was dust, which was crepe paper, which was actually shredded, which is very easy to use. And then now we have the glitter foam, which is also a new product. Well, relatively a new product. How does the JCNP manage materials, and what are the rules relating to materials in Junkanoo?
And this has been a very difficult task for the JCNP regards to following material and their updates. All right. Our parade is predominantly crepe paper. We have a lot of our group that still use crepe paper, whether they use it in dust form, whether they cut it, whether they strip it, they're using paper. A couple years back, we were inundated with a peplum paper, right? And this peplum paper came in about 12 different colors, and you could not tell whether it's crepe paper or whatever. Yeah, okay. And so we have had what we tease at the JCNP of groups cheating. Okay. Now, most of the larger costumes have a way of using terry cloth. Okay, they cut up the terry cloth and it looks just like paper. You cannot tell it's too high. It's 20 feet up. You cannot tell. And so, once we are training our judges, you know, our thing is we never try to handcuff groups because they are going to have the opportunity to explore all new materials. As you know, when Valara came a couple years ago, Valara did not come glittered before.
Yeah, it's great.
It came flat, and it was a wonderful material. It allowed me to create a costume and take about 20 pounds off of it. Okay, and then, of course, now the Valara shows up in glitter form. Okay, now I can tell you something. The lady I'm associated with, most of you know her, Arlene. She's a traditionalist. Okay, she ain't having it. Okay, it gotta be paste. If you notice, she's probably still one of the only people who have pasted undergarments. Okay, the T-shirts and the satin could come, and she has not yet reflected her Junkanoo to that. Okay, and so you know, as the material comes into Junkanoo and the groups have the opportunity to explore the material, a lot of it is not harming the parade at this time. But you realize that all of what is being introduced, Junkanoos have a very clever way of installing it onto these costumes. And you cannot, from a judge's perspective, don't care how much you prepare them to see that. On the morning of that parade, when that costume spin past you and dazzle you, you are not going to see it. And so as we continue to search, we have a parades committee that is responsible for that. Okay, and then if anything really gets out of hands, the one thing that we do not want our groups to be involved with is the dynamics of cloth, because the cloth will then truly water us down. Okay, and so we have those groups still pegged at 9 persons. Only 9 persons are allowed to wear cloth in those groups.
It's amazing because as groups evolve, and you'll have some people who will actually counter our argument about junk being fine art with the crepe paper. They'll say, well, we started out with newspaper and we started out with sponge and we evolved. So with these new materials, we're actually evolving. Is that a fair argument, or is that just an excuse to use other materials?
No, because those same persons have the argument that this crepe paper showed up out of Germany. Okay, and then they said this tissue paper showed up out of America. Okay, and so we transitioned from all of the indigenous material that's around us, and we got ourselves caught up in the late 1700s with the newspaper, which has been with Junkanoo almost forever, until we recognized the sponge and then the straw, and then we had ourselves with the first set of color in Junkanoo came from the tissue paper. Once we have graduated from the tissue paper, I guess sometime in the early 60s, and we got caught up into the Venus crepe paper, for those of you who are that age, with this Venus business, the Venus peacock. Rich colors, and it was hard, okay? And then we then emerged to this 60% stretch paper we're getting now, which can hold, the color is fast and it stays, okay? And of course, it's a paper that has a little bit of what they call linseed oil, okay? And that same oil is embedded into the WD-40. So when you put this paper on, and if it ever fades, well, most of this information comes from working
Experience.
in the museum as well, because we have to know how to make these things and
Look
preserve
fresh.
and keep them, right? And so, once they start to fade, and one of the only colors that you probably cannot bring back is pink.
Pink. Yeah.
It's
gone.
you have to cover the pink and keep it dark for it to hold its body, But look here, everybody will argue, but we have to leave the door cracked for the artists to develop, okay? But we just cannot slam the door on them, and so, but we have to have those people who are willing to say we can't go overboard. Okay, and a lot of the JCNP members will put their foot down at certain stages. Okay, it's very difficult for the JCNP to have agreed to have drummers wear T-shirts. That took 2 years to pass.
Is that because none of the JCMP members are drummers? Because I can't fathom beating a drum with pace all the way up.
Oh, yeah.
It's
But
painful.
but your forefathers did it, and what they would when you go to an old argument,
Yes.
they will say to you,
Yes.
man, y'all shortcutting.
Yeah.
Okay, and we had to go the long route.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what you do is that was embedded in you from a child, right? And so when we made this transition from groups basically saying we look nasty, can't you see we look nasty? And you talk it through and get everybody to understand that it looks nasty, and let us clean it up. And so once you clean it up and you got to the drummers now in your group wearing a uniform group T-shirt, okay? Now, the groups then explain that you put an expense on me, because now I got to go buy all these T-shirts,
Right.
and you have to actually give your member that T-shirt. You have to give them the T-shirt to rush in, okay? Because before you could have pasted your shirt in any color,
Right.
but now because we going in a red shirt, I have to run down to the printers and I have to get 300 red shirts, okay? And you can't sell them, okay? And so that has presented a problem in the change of the rule, okay? Now what has happened? A year ago, we decided that the bellas look nasty with these shirts on, and so why don't we put the bellas in this?
So that's an additional cost.
So it's additional cost for the groups, and so now groups are finding themselves ordering up to 300, 400 T-shirts, because if your person is not in a uniform T-shirt, it's considered cloth,
Oh,
right?
okay.
You see, and that's a 1-point penalty per infraction.
And that's a big penalty.
That's a big penalty.
That's a big penalty.
In the parades today, you're winning the parade by 1.2 points, and you cannot afford to lose a point.
Yeah. Let's just go back a bit, because I want people to understand exactly who makes up the JCNP and the structure of the JCNP, so they have a better idea exactly your rule. So they wouldn't just jump up and say, Silbert do this, Silbert do that.
And the thing about it is that these people continue to make me look so important by keep using my name, that I do all these dangerous things.
That's what happens when you're in the head.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that, and for me to continue to walk with a smile, I gotta be crazy, eh? So the way the JCNP is structured, and I'm the first elected chairman. Okay, Arthur Gibson was the first chairman who was appointed, and Les Johnson was also appointed. Arthur served for about 6 or 7 months. Les served for 6 years, and I am in my 9th year. Okay,
So JCNP has been in existence for
14 years.
14 years. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, is that right? Yeah, 14 years. Now, before the JCNP, it was the JCB, which is the Junkanoo Corporation Bahamas Limited.
Okay.
Okay, but there was some technical issue with using the Bahamas,
Okay.
and you were only constituted in New Providence.
Okay.
And so hence the name is now changed to the Junkanoo Corporation New Providence Limited. Now, before the JCB was formed, I served for 18 months as the interim chairman of the body who was putting the JCNP together. Now, that is not written no place, but you have all the minutes of it, okay? And so I have actually been on the ground with the JCNP from
Inception.
its birth, Okay, and then in 2004, once we got the green light from the government to move forward with the company, I was on board from that day. And then I became the first elected chairman of the JCNP. Now, somewhere in our records, it is said that we only can serve 2 terms, which is very vague. But I have now served my 3rd term, okay? And so we will see where we go from here. But the way the JCNP is structured is very simple, and it gives every group the opportunity to participate. We have today 7 A division groups. Each A division groups have 5 representatives plus their leader or chairman. Okay, so that's 6 members. Each B division group has 3 members plus their leader or chairman. We have 2 individual associations, and they each have 3 representatives each.
They would be individual category. And what's the next one?
The individuals have 2 divisions.
Oh, they have 2 divisions.
Yeah, they have 2 associations.
Okay, 2 associations.
Bahamas and Nassau.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and so with those who are participating under each of those umbrellas, they have 3 representatives each. Okay. And so the JCNP is well-rounded for all groups to be represented. When you hear Silbert them do something, it is so crazy, because when I came in, we created a structure in the JCNP that allow us to, whatever we create, we debate and we vote, okay? And so everybody has the opportunity to make a contribution, everybody. Now, we have heard some renditions about the rules and one family controlling the rules and that kind of stuff. And I want to get to that because I want to show you how people just like to say it to make themselves feel good and to make the people who they're talking to feel good. But we can't be doing all this stupidness and still survive. You know, it has to have some rhythm or rhyme to it, eh? And so what we have basically is the JCNP has an election of its executive members, which is the chairman, the vice chairman, the treasurer and the deputy treasurer, the secretary and the assistant secretary, and the PR person. The top level is the 7 members. We are the executive committee. And then we have a 2nd tier of executives who are all chairmen of the different, of the committees that we have. Okay. So we go from legal, business, parades, rules, outreach, events, PR, it's about 9 of them, and finance, okay? And all of these committees are represented at the JCNP, and now the only thing here is that the entire Junkanoo community is invited to attend all committee meetings, except for legal, because the information there is very touchy. It's to do with the company. And of course, you know, since we've been there, we have had 2 court appearances. And so that's a closed session. The executive committee is a closed session, but every other committee in the JCNP is open to every participating Junkanoo. Okay? Now, would we have tried to do in allowing all of the members to be involved so they can make a contribution? Okay? Now, they cannot go to the General Assembly. They make a contribution at the committee level, and the committee chairman is now responsible for putting that information to the General Assembly, which means that all the groups get to hear all of the outflow from the committees once a month, if a committee has to report. Now, each of these committees has the mandate to meet a minimum of 7 times for the year, okay? And the JCNP basically has a 10-month operating cycle, because we will meet right through until the first Wednesday of November. It's the last meeting for the JCNP. Everything in the JCNP terminates, okay? And we turn over the functioning now of the parade to the executive committee and the parade's management team. And then, of course, we have the subsidiary company that we call Junkanoo Ticks that is responsible for the Junkanoo tickets. But the way we operate in the JCNP, and perhaps if you gave me something like we were talking about the paper and its changes, the same way we made a decision on the T-shirts for the drummers, that didn't come easy. Every group had to vote on that, and the majority wins. Okay, if we had voted at the JCNP, and right now there are 21 entities, 21, there are 21 votes, and we voted on T-shirts, and if that vote ended 10-10 and one person abstained, the T-shirts can't pass. You see, the T-shirts cannot pass.
Silbert does not have the passing vote.
Of course, and the chairman does not have a tie-breaking vote. So if, and the reason we set it like that is because we want the Junkanoos to be responsible for their movement, okay? Not somebody else dictating that to them. And so once the rule said that everybody has to have fringed undergarments, and we say we want to change the fringe undergarment of a drummer to a T-shirt, to a uniform group T-shirt, it goes through, it's a discussion, and if we don't get past the discussion within the 30 days, with it going back to the group, coming back to the floor, come back to the floor, and we can't make a decision, we then defer it to next year. It automatically gets deferred. Okay? And so we said we can't make a decision on this year. Now, the one thing in the JCNP that is important for all groups and people to understand, you cannot change a major rule in our parade past June the 1st. So you can't say we putting wheels on the costume June the 2nd. If you did not agree that by June 1st, it can't happen.
So all the rules for this year is already gone through.
They've been ratified. All of the rules have been signed off now. Okay, they've been agreed in principle. There are just a couple little tweakings that are going on to make some adjustments to them. This year we hope to put the rules in a little booklet so that we want to print a couple thousand of them so everybody can have a copy.
So any new rules
of the rules? No. They're basically, there's just been a tweaking of the rules. And in some of the things you heard last year, there was a situation during the parades where a group was reported for blocking, okay, and not causing the groups to be able to flow, okay, and then there was a lot of speculation, okay. See, and the way we operate at JCNP, we don't make these decisions during the parade. The decisions are made by the parade's management team, and when you cannot solve a parade issue, you have the right to appeal, what we call the protest, and that goes before an independent review committee. And one of the things we try to do with that committee is make sure we have a legal mind to it, make sure we have some conceptual artists and builders and people who understand a little bit of Junkanoo attached to that, so they could understand all the emotions of Junkanoo.
So these persons are not necessarily Junkanooers?
No. Okay. No. And so once you present them with an issue, because this team is also brought up to date with all of the rules, they have their sessions with us where they try to understand X, Y, Z, what you mean by this, how that works, and then they're given the privilege and ability with a ticket and a vest if they want to sit and view the parade, or they want to move around and they see it with their own two eyes. So once these complaints come through, they are ready to take care of the problem. So this issue with the blocking, you know, everybody thought it was critical that a group block, and they should have gotten the 10-point penalty. And the group did not get the 10-point penalty because there was so much technical things around it, because the wrong person issued a penalty, okay? They went and got somebody from a different area to issue the penalty. Can't happen. The penalty did not end up in the group's bag. Every group have their own individual score bags. It's sealed before it goes to the tally room. It ended up in a group, 2 groups behind them, bag. So tally room have the position. They have to make a decision on it. It came in the wrong bag, they got to kick it out, right? Now, what needed to happen there was, as Junkanoo's talking straightforward, the penalty needed to stay and allow that group to protest it and have it withdrawn. Okay?
Full
But
process.
yeah, but because it was removed, it tainted the situation. Okay? Now here is the big part of all that. Where that incident happened is not registered in our rules as being a part of the route. You understand what I'm saying? And so now the body now had to make a change. And when you say any changes, the change is now from Shirley Street to Bay Street on Frederick Street is now a part of the route. So if you make the infraction within that zone, you could be penalized for it
Which
now.
technically makes sense, because
Yeah,
you block
yeah.
our route, that means you
Yeah.
impede the route. Everything
Yeah.
else. Which is interesting, because I mean, that section is always tight.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
Trinity Church,
Coming down.
heading back to Bay Street. And it's actually passing the JCNP's office.
Yeah, but see what happens here now is we have a task force unit, and their sole responsibility is we only want the banner and your two leads to go up in that gap. We want everybody else to just turn,
Around and come
go
try.
back to George. Okay? And that's their main function on that corner. So if anybody block, you don't have to get caught into an argument. All these groups know the rules. Okay? Nothing in the JCNP is hidden. Everything is right on top of the table.
And it's interesting how you said you're going to produce booklets. In today's society, we know a lot of people don't read anymore.
Right, right.
So you might have a better with a video or audio.
Well, here's what's going to happen. The
You know how they
judges,
put it in audio form, you get audio book.
the judges are carrying tablets.
Okay.
Okay, so the rules will be attached to their tablets. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the Junkanoos ain't carrying the
No
tablets in the
tablet,
road.
like what?
They got to carry that little rule book in their back pocket. Okay.
I don't know what I mean, yeah.
And I will tell you, yeah, they can put it on the phone. I mean, they can put it on the phone because it's all emailed to all of the groups. And the leaders both have all the emails, and all of these PR divisions and all of these groups have all of this information from the JCNP. But there is a beating down of the JCNP, okay, because people think we ought to be doing more. This is all voluntary, you know.
So nobody in JCNP get paid?
We get a stipend,
Okay.
okay? We get a stipend, and
I'd come to a question I wanted to ask, because we interview Mr. Arthur Gibson, probably in 2011. We have an interview with him, and one of the things he mentioned that the chairman of the JCMP should be a
Full-time
full-time job.
A full-time paid
A
job.
full-time
a
paid
full-time
job.
secretary,
okay.
because
You
it
know,
requires a full-time attention.
So let's get back to
And this
this.
is
Yeah.
even before you
You
became
became
chairman
chairman.
of the JCNP.
I became chairman in 2010.
Yeah,
I think Les was the chairman when he made that statement.
yeah,
Right.
that was right.
Let me tell you what has cost everything to get tripped up, and I think people need to understand how it got tripped up.
Okay.
When the JCNP was established in 2004, the government of the Bahamas, giving us the opportunity to run these parades on our own, also told us that we were going to be given an establishment grant of some $1.2 million.
Okay.
That $1.2 million was supposed to be earmarked for getting the corporation up and running and making sure that all of these directors, the two levels of directors, would be paid fully. Now, if you pay a director probably, let's say $30,000, we got 15 of them, it's $450,000 a year. You have to make sure you have a salary package of $450,000 a year. Now, you have $1.2 million. How long it can last you? 2 years. Okay. Now, the government of the Bahamas, giving us the opportunity to do this, did not back us up. So Arthur Gibson, who was the first chairman appointed, okay, well, he will tell you how he walked away, okay? And then Les Johnson, who put himself in the position for 6 years, okay, he had to scratch and claw to get his way there too. Now, when we were elected, there was a different mandate for us, okay? Because I was elected with Gary Russell, as the vice chair, Denzel Roll, Patrick Adderley, Kishlane O'Brien, Dwayne Woods, and Trevor Pratt. That was the team. But once that team was assembled, that team had frictions. Okay? Because the friction came because as the chairman of the JCNP, I got these little side notes from some of my very, very, very good friends in the Valley Boys. And they say, Silbert, Valley and Saxons run Junkanoo. And I say, okay, we'll see. Okay, I never argue with a person like that, okay? And what we do is establish the rules of the JCNP, and the person who has to set the example with them is me, okay? And once those rules were set, and I made it very clear in the JCNP that you will make the decisions, okay? You will make all of the decisions in the JCNP. And so the chairman of the JCNP will preside and will do the day-to-day running of the JCNP. Am I paid? No. Okay, the chairman of the JCNP has a stipend of $2,400 a year. Okay, all right, and so you get a little stipend. You also get a stipend for going to the meetings and all these other little things. So you get a little bit here and there to take care of your gas and your telephone bill and that kind of stuff.
Hopefully get something to eat.
Yeah, okay. But it's nothing to write home about because you put your heart and soul into it. Okay, and when you hear the amount of nonsense that come out of some people's mouth, right? And you know that their people are right in the belly of the JCNP, right? You just feel like taking a paddle and just start whapping. Because the only thing you could say is that,
Where'd I come from?
where is your representative?
And
you know?
And you know, it's interesting you said it because I've always, even when I was a member of a particular Junkanoo group, it seemed like the information it always started to get muddy between the JCNP and the members of the group.
Well, I know what group.
I don't know.
I know
I
what
don't
group
know-
you in.
I don't know if that happened at the administration level, but the information just never seemed to come.
But if I had to give the report on that group that you're talking about,
Yeah.
the report would mean that that they don't get along with other children. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what you get in school reports, eh?
Yeah.
And so you have to understand that there are some people who believe they own Junkanoo. There are some groups who believe they own Junkanoo. Now, people will say, we got to get rid of Silbert. Why is Silbert so difficult to get rid of if it's such an easy process?
Didn't you go in unopposed last election?
No. I have won by a landslide once.
Okay.
In my first election, I mean, this was a thunderous thing where Gus Cooper, Willa Francis, Arthur Gibson, they all came to make sure I lose the election. Okay? It was like an intimidating thing because, the members or the quote-unquote elites of Junkanoo got to run this thing, eh? And so I could always remember I won the election 8 votes to 6. And then there was a couple other little votes on the side. But I say crazy things to people. Like I say things, I smarter than you. But it means nothing. When you go into election, you got to think. You cannot go, in my second stint, it was a landslide. My opponent only got 2 votes. And in the last election, I got 12 votes, okay? But the issue is, it's not that you're declining in your popularity like that, because you were even keel, and then you went way above, and then you came back down, right? But here's what happens. You cannot have mega groups dominate little groups. That's bullying. And my job is I is the bully killer.
So you're like the commissioner.
Yeah.
The NFL
Yeah.
who's the commissioner of
Yeah,
Junkanoo.
I do not allow these mega groups to bully the little groups.
Okay.
You see, let me tell you something. The little groups there, see, And you know, I understand big groups. I was in a big group. I know what it is. Get out the way. We come in.
Still in a big group, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I'm not in a big group. I have not. I'm a lifetime member of One Family. Okay, and I serve at the pleasure on the JCNP under the One Family umbrella. Okay, I'm a member of the team at the JCNP level. I am not allowed to make a decision on their behalf. Okay, so would we, you see,
Because you only know small boy no more.
no, but
Okay.
but see, what you do is, take for instance, if the Saxons in the Valley, some mouthy set of people, and they decide they want to go do their own parade on Bay Street. Okay, so you go watch them. Now you on Bay Street now. Let one go down, let the next one come behind. When you gonna see them again? You gotta wait for 5-6 hours, see them again, right? But see, the little groups help to make that parade, and they are just as important as you in the parade.
Because they all play a role.
Yeah, they all play a role in there, because if you are building up this what you call this feeder system, okay, and we say it coming from Junior Junkanoo, but it ain't. Okay, it is coming directly out of the neighborhoods. Okay, and so once you have these little groups of 50 that create themselves into these B division groups, how many of these B division groups have you seen who have trained Junkanoos that eventually just move to the A division? Okay, and then the B division sit there and say, look, all our members, they gone. But see, but they did the job you didn't do.
Or you didn't want to
Do, you see?
in a lot of cases.
And so when you say why Silbert's still there, right? Because what Silbert does is open the door for everybody to participate. And it gives all of these little groups the opportunity to feel comfortable, okay? That nobody is gonna just trample up all over them without them having a say.
That's a powerful statement.
You see? And so if you put me in an election with anybody, they can say, boy, Silbert is look out for us, boy.
Yeah.
And so what you can do?
Yeah.
You will vote for Silbert. And of course, you know, JCNB is lobbying as well, because some groups see your worth, and then some groups don't see your worth. And in Junkanoo, one of the major hiccups we have is that finances is a real issue.
Yeah, we want to
Okay.
speak to that. We want to speak
It's a real
to that.
issue.
Yeah.
And of course, my job for 9 years is being able to try to bring real money factors into Junkanoo. Okay? When you have the government of the Bahamas who just decided and threw $30 million in 3 years behind Carnival, and they did not even stop and take a deep breath and say, you know something, man, we should give Junkanoo 10% of that, all right? Bam, nothing. We have a proposition where Prime Minister Ingram gave the Junkanoos the opportunity to run an expo on the dock. Now, it went defunct, okay? When I came in 2010, we say we're gonna rejuvenate this, okay? And we put all the plans in. We said all these Junkanoo fellas, use paint, use a carpenter, use this, use plumber. We're gonna rebuild this place. And they didn't allow us to do it. And then they asked us in 2012 to vacate the building for a couple of months so they could change the roof. And so we walked out of the building in 2012, and we went back in 2017,
Same roof.
and the same roof there. And they took care of the welcome center, and they left our side scrappy. And then we got to note that we ain't getting it back. Now, here it is, right? We put through a very simple plan to the minister, and we say, look, man, we just want our space back, and we have a plan that the government doesn't have to look back at Junkanoo ever more in its life. And here's the plan. We were going to take that in hand. We were going to recreate that space. We were going to put an amphitheater in there. We were going to have 5 nightly shows. And we were going to have each Junkanoo group that has a band perform nightly, 1 week a night. We were going to set the museum. We got had a merchandising space, audio-visual space, so guests could see exactly how it looked on the road with big 80-inch screens. We were going to have a shack area, and the whole walls were going to be filled with the history. Okay? And then we were going to have a Junkanoo troupe that left the expo every hour on the hour to light up Bay Street. Now, we told them this is our plan. If we got 5 million, I heard the minister say the other day we have 6.5 million coming now. But we said if the number is 5 million, we just want to capture 50% of them. Okay? And let's say 2 million. We want to charge them $5 a person to come into the building.
Yep, the visitors come to the cruise port.
So, if you could attract people for $5, and this figure ain't gonna be $5, this figure will eventually be probably $20 and $30 when you're doing a dinner show. A Junkanoo dinner show out there every night, okay? Because the cruise passengers do not venture too far during the night. And we had an ideal spot, okay? And then our job was going to be that we would attract 2 million visitors, minimum of $5 a person. We have $10 million a year. That's the simplest math you ever seen in your life, right?
So what happened?
The minute a Junkanoo division speaks about that kind of revenue, everybody close the door on you.
So you believe that's why they ain't get
Oh, of course.
the money they get in Carnival?
Of course. The door's been closed. We understand now they are privatizing the dock. Nobody has answered our letter. Minister Pintard has now left and gone to another office, and we have not received any response. So we only could speculate. Okay? And so my job is, if you want this art form to grow, okay, it needs funding. Okay? If you're not prepared to put the funding behind it, and we have the wherewithal to make it happen, all I ask, and I only ask this, and this is my one comment, even at the last, what we had done there.
Conclave.
The conclave, my one thing, give us the opportunity, man, let us fail. See, when they gave Junkanoo the opportunity in 2004, they thought it was going to fail. All right? But you see, and I'm bragging, we did a hell of a job. Because what we did was we took the concept, we made the concept work, we never went back for $1. We went out and we got Corporate Bahamas to assist us. Thank you to BTC. Thank you to Collect Bear. And for a part there, thank you to Coca-Cola. Okay? They came on board with us because the way we worked, we really needed about $300,000 to operate every year. And those corporate people made that happen.
And we need corporate. We need corporate and some of government. But speaking of...
But we have none of government. Yeah.
Speaking of groups and entities and sponsorship, we have two groups that in the A division that obviously needs help, i.e. Music Makers and Prodigal Sons.
Right.
But we have a new group in Genesis who able to garner many micro sponsors and put them on their banners. I try to figure out why groups try to find a mega sponsor to try to do it all, instead of going to the smaller persons or trying to go to the bigger merchants and just get a smaller piece of the pie. And on the second part of that is, the same two groups I call, just like Genesis, they can have a stake out. You can at least try, make it appear like you're helping yourself. But to me, it's like they make no effort to try and help themselves. It's just like they want you guys to subsidize them, or they want the government to subsidize them. Yes, they are a feeder system. I agree that they are a feeder system, but at the same token in time, you can help yourself or try to appear to help yourself.
Yeah. See, but we we're also in a business, and basically when you present yourself, that is what Corporate Bahamas sees. Corporate Bahamas sees that, if I do this, this will work for me. Okay? And so if you have Saxons or One Family or the Valley or Roots, and you have now Genesis, okay? What happens is they have established sponsors, right? Who basically have seen their advertising dollar go a very long way. Okay? Now, a younger group like the Music Makers. Let me tell you. No. I can tell you why I said younger.
Younger in terms of participants.
Yeah, participants. Okay. Because you see,
they got free several times. We all know that.
Listen to this comment very carefully, because I will tell you how it will change. If you gave the Music Makers a $60,000 major sponsorship, they will go back to prominence. Because Junkanoo is a business.
Say it one more time for me. Look at that camera right there and say it one more time for me, please. Please.
Junkanoo is a business.
Thank you.
Let me explain to you.
You've been saying that for years.
Let me explain to you what a Music Makers and a Prodigal Son group could do for you with funding. If they have funding, when they map out their budget, they know who preparing their costumes. Right now they're struggling. The group you know about, you ain't gonna struggle. The group you know about, same group, you ain't gonna struggle. All right? The group I know about ain't gonna struggle. All right? And the group I come from ain't gonna struggle. And the group who now basically on top, Roots, they ain't gonna struggle.
I was struggling.
See, they have established grants that are coming in that are making it better for them.
I understand that, but so, how can a new group establish grants and older group have difficulty getting a grant?
Well, because
is it management?
No, but let's say that the newer group, and let's just say it's a nutshell, the newer group had a link, and that's how it got started. Okay.
I also remember Prodigal Son having a link when they first left
Yeah.
the Valley Boys.
Yeah.
They were trying to recruit. They did very well. They beat the Valley Boys in music also.
Yeah, but if you go back to all of the torturing that had happened when the government was signing all of these agreements with these what you call them?
Major
Yeah.
establishments, yeah.
All these major establishments, right? They were supposed to give each one of them groups a major one. But who got them? Who got the majors? The majors went to the groups who were already established. And that is the problem. They wanted to take the foreign direct investment, and they said, I think these guys will spend it better. And so you kill that little group. You kill them. All right? And anyway, that's a long story. And let me say, I agree with you that, they need to stand up a little taller. But see, trying to stand up taller and somebody says that you got your legs cut off again, all the morale of your group disappears.
And then you lose members.
Okay, and you start losing members. And Junkanoo people don't come one at a time.
No,
okay? When they leave, it's 10 of us, man. And they gone. You see?
One person asked the question, are a person paid to be in the JCNB?
No, people are not paid. And it's a very simple package we have. Okay. Each member of the JCNB who is a registered member to sit in the General Assembly, they have to attend 70% of the meetings, and they are giving a given a stipend November the 1st. Okay, and each of those floor members get a stipend of $800. Okay, for the year.
See, because
for participation.
The follow up to that question is, and if so, could it be that they show little to no opposition if shown to be in their position and receive pay? Status quo.
I didn't understand the question.
He's saying is, the people who are on the JCNP right now show no opposition to anything because they're being paid.
No, it's plenty opposition.
Okay.
Plenty opposition.
$800 ain't no money.
But see, understand, a lot of groups have a lot of things on the line.
Yeah.
And the one word I mentioned to you today is just the way they do it in Washington. They lobby. You see? Because I don't want to talk about a direct situation from this year. I'll talk about something from probably last year. okay? When groups lobby for something, okay? You take, for instance, a couple of years ago, one of our groups decided, your group decided that they ain't coming to the meetings. We ain't coming. Oh, they upset.
Hold on. His group. I ain't
Your
gonna
group,
talk
okay?
I used to rush.
Yeah, they say, we ain't coming to meeting. So they didn't come to no meeting until September. Okay. While they were gone, a rule get passed that say we reducing the time from 80 minutes to 70 minutes.
I remember that.
When you show up and the rule then pass, what you can do?
And the ruling passed with June.
Yeah, it passed.
June.
Okay, and so my thing is that it has nothing to do with whether you getting a little stipend or not. A lot of members don't make the stipend package.
Apparently so. They
Yeah,
show up
yeah. A lot of members don't make.
70%.
All right, and you see, one of the things is that every committee meeting you attend to, you have to attend 70% of them, and you get a stipend to pretend each.
Maybe that explains why the information wasn't trickling down to that particular group.
Well, see, one of the things is that, and this is what we always say to groups, we wanted to do a general meeting of the Junkanoo community every quarter. And the treasurers told me it's going to cost us about $1,500 to do it. Each quarter.
Right.
Because you have to rent the facility.
Right.
And you got to get refreshments, sound system, okay, to basically make it happen. We don't have a budget package for it, right? And so you have to depend on the members sitting around your table to present the information to their groups. You see, and see, once the groups get this information, believe me, if we do a rules exam for all of Junkanoo, 95% of the community will fail.
I think it'll be more than that.
Because they don't know the rules.
I agree.
They don't know the rules, okay? And then they would blame other people who know the rules. There's one person who really know the rules around here. Rory Sanders.
And we're gonna invite him on the show.
He knows the rules.
And here's the crazy thing. I've seen the rules, but
You ever hear all this talk about the rules being ambiguous and blah, 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 blah?
yeah.
Let me tell you
Section
something.
A, B, C, D.
If you read the rules say you can't shoot fireworks on Bay Street. The simple rule. A fella last year before the parade had fireworks on his back to shoot up in there. What was that going to do to that group?
Penalize them. Can I shoot
Disqualification.
Can I shoot them on the back road?
On the back road?
Yeah.
Once
as
you get
as a part of my effect.
once
Could
you
I shoot over a barge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you get permission from the police to shoot them, you could shoot them.
Once
You
on
know,
Bay Street.
Once in on Bay Street.
Okay.
If you on Bay Street, a number of groups have done a lot of little things on Bay Street and gotten away with it. Because
Tell them the story about the big group who did something who was supposed to get penalized but didn't.
what's this?
When we spoke about the Valley Boys, when we introduced carved heads, carved
Okay.
hands,
Look at man.
etc.
See,
And this is not a knock on the Valley Boys. This
no,
is
this is just how judges validate what's supposed to happen. Because you present a theme, and like you saying, new materials coming in every year.
Right.
It was the year 2 that when the Saxons decided to do 3D.
Yeah.
Okay, the Saxons did 3D on the 10th anniversary, and we went down to the 10th anniversary, and we have killed everybody out there with the 3D costumes. Now, the point is, we let the Valley Boys see it too early. So what they did was they counter whatever they was doing, they counter and they went to all 3D. Now, the easiest 3D at that time was bird, because all them wings could flap. Okay, and you couldn't tell if you was the Saxon or a Valley that morning. Everybody had bird. Okay, I had a mott. Okay, I had a mott, right? But you had wings. But the issue is, we get our butts handed to us because somebody peeped your product. Now, the Valley Boys came a couple of years later with the Heroes, and they came with all these styrofoam heads. They were supposed to get mashed into the ground. Look here. The judges validated that because they had looked that good, eh? And so you say, how could we penalize this? They in pace. They were painted. They was in pace. Big head, Samilo, and everybody, it looked good. House of Assembly. Boom! Now, it was validated, and from then,
It's been a part of
not a man has ever built another cardboard face, or cardboard hands, or cardboard legs.
Unless you get leave.
Oh, okay. You know, and so all that's happened now is everybody now is carving, and you know this styrofoam has now gotten deep into the belly of Junkanoo, but if the judges had not validated the Valley Boys on that morning, styrofoam might have never entered Junkanoo. But because they did it, and the skillful carving and the likeness and the real life, and you know, and you present some Milo,
Yeah.
the hero. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, I can't put 10 out of 100 on this. This is a 95. And so you validate the product, and once the product is validated, it keep going.
Is that the same case with decorations, the feathers, the beads?
Yeah. Yeah,
it
but
got validated by the judges. They're saying, okay, it looks good, we accept it, or
and let me give you an argument that was presented at the Independent Review Committee when a group protests another group with the decorations. Okay? The rule says that you only supposed to have 25% decoration of your costume. Okay. So if we said that the back of your costume is 50% and the front is 50%, that's 100, right? So if I put no decoration on the back and I half the decoration on the front, that's 25%.
That's 25%.
So how you can penalize me? The Independent Review Committee had to look at that because it was correct.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't go there and measure the decoration. You just say, I mean,
that was gonna be my next question.
Yeah,
How
you
you
can't
can
measure it.
validate how much is 75%?
but that was the argument the group presented. And they say, check the back. You know, decoration on the back. Half of my in the front, that's 25% of the half in the front. And so what you have is that Junkanoo groups use that same argument. Look in the back, see if there's any decoration. And they got the front loaded, okay, for the effect. But the decoration rule truly does not affect the parades, because I don't think when the cost is presented, that rule is presented, but we don't tie judges' hands to go there saying a costume is over decorated, because don't tie the hands of the artists, you know. Let them express, okay? Let them express. And, you know, the way you will counter that is you then become a positive and a negative judge, because if you saw the costume getting a 85 to 90 and you gave it an 80, you penalized the costume. You already did it, okay? And so we don't put that on the judges. You know?
recently there's been a lot of talk about our present location with Junkanoo. We've introduced wheels recently. We have larger costumes. We have larger lead costumes, because the lead costumes now float. What used to be a lead costume is now a step down. Your thoughts on venue and size of our costumes?
Let's talk about costume size. You know, when I became intimate with the parade was when I was the rules chairman of the JCNP, because one of the things I had to understand was the width of the road. When the bleachers are there with the barricades, the road is 28 feet wide. And we used to always tell people, don't make your costume wider than 26 feet, because you need to have 1 foot on either side to go past. A minimum, because you know, you might still see some costumers in the stands. Okay? And then we used to, there was a catwalk in Rawson Square that was 25 feet up there. We used to tell people, don't make your costume 24 feet. Okay? Try to keep below that. But you know, some groups, with me, everybody who know me in Junkanoo, I is a big builder. I like to build big. And as big as I could get them, you make them like that. But the challenge is, we talk about the venue. When the wheels went on the costumes, the venue became an issue. And you might not believe this too, it took 3 years for the wheels to pass on the lead costumes.
Oh, I wish that's one never passed.
Okay, 3 years. Now, the wheels on the step down passed 2 years ago. Okay? Because what happened is, all of the off-the-shoulder dancers who are getting killed in the parade, They have their shoulder piece on and their skirts, and they are dancing, and a person who is in a step down could rest the costume down, and they were beating them. Just shake it.
Give it an illusion.
So we had to change that rule, okay? And then we agreed two wheels. There are a lot of groups who was lobbying for 3 wheels, because what it meant really is that they just wanted to grab
Push
them
down.
carnival frames and
push
bring
them
them,
down the road.
yeah, and just want add them costume on top of that. But we basically stayed against it, gave them 2 wheels on the back. When the venue comes into play, and we talk about how we could financially get Junkanoo to progress, we have about 8,000 seats, okay? We have our potential sales out there each morning is about $270,000. That's the potential sales.
Per morning,
Yeah, per morning. So we look at 540. We will sell out a Boxing Day parade. That includes its comps, okay? But our New Year's parade, we will be hovering around 50%.
What you think is?
Now, there are a lot of little comments about how it worked. Now, I'll tell you this, and and I mean, I'll say this at the end, because I don't want you to think I just say it like that. I just want to add this little piece to it. Our New Year's parade is inundated with church services. You cannot take these people out of the church after saying thank you for the past year. I welcome New Year, and we're going straight to Junkanoo. It's kind of critical, right? Yeah, it's really one of those things. But the Junkanoos don't think that's a real challenge, because they'll wait till 3 o'clock. Okay, we gotta get the parade going. You see, because most of the Junkanoos, they worship God too. You know, and you should see the amount of little piles of them who just sit around and they doing their prayer.
In some cases, they actually go visit the church on the route.
Well, for me, I end up right in the back seat of Christ Church Cathedral each year. Me and Big Jew and the rest of us be sitting right in the back there, and you know there, and you know, sometimes you are just so happy to be there, and then you know that you're gonna walk out this door, and war start. Okay, so we have faced that many mornings, but then that is a real travesty there, because we can't seem to make that happen. We have had a conversation at the JCNP that said, can we move the New Year's Day parade now to July the 10th, Majority Rule Day? Okay, that allows us to get away from that, allow everybody to be with their family, to cross one year to the next with their family. You know how much people hustling to get them costume down Bay Street when the clock passed in 12:01, and they in the road with
Some
big
people
costumes.
in the shack.
Yeah, in
They
the
can
shack.
get from Bay Street.
Okay, and so you only could turn the radio on, because in the shack where we live, you will hear the radio on with a church service on, and everybody, you will just hear everything go quiet at 12 o'clock, and then once it comes in, it gets noisy again. But they are all reverenced to what happens. Okay, and so
are you an advocate for the July 10th?
no, for January 10th.
January 10th. Sorry, January 10th.
To me, whatever the Junkanoos decide they want to do, we make happen.
Your personal opinion?
But yeah, fine. I think January the 10th is good, because what it does too, our product would improve for the second morning. It gives an additional 2 weeks, and then we'll have the same day as Boxing Day. We'll go half kill you with the beating, and we go home and rest. You know, but when you go to the New Year's Day parade, it's not easy. You know, next day, it's not easy. You know, and so it gets complicated like that. But I'll tell you, when you talk about the venue, and we talk about the amount of seats in the venue, and you talk about the amount of revenue you can derive, when people talk about putting the parade in the sports center, now you ain't talking to me, honestly.
It's
Okay.
the wrong type of
Yeah.
Cool sticks now.
Yeah. Don't see. Let me tell you something.
You're too far away from the product.
Let me tell you something.
Gotta be in the field.
They made a critical error with Junior Junkanoo, and I'm not in a position to speak to Junior Junkanoo, but But you know what was so great about Junior Junkanoo? On Bay Street? You don't have the opportunity to ooh and ah when you're in the sports center because all the group come line up on the track one time. You see everything in one shot, and it's dead.
Yeah.
Okay? But when you see them coming at you, them little children, you ever see the costume? Ali and I always have this laugh about the big face on little children. They from the top right to the floor, there's only one big face, and they just jump in, right? Ooh! But you don't have that opportunity in the sports center. You can't do it.
Too far.
It's too far.
Good news that I think Junior Jumpers to be back on Bay this year.
I also heard something very strange too about the date, so we'll wait to hear that.
Yeah,
Okay.
also heard that. Yeah.
So when we get to the venue, yes, we do need to have that Junkanoo Village. Okay, we do need to. Les Johnson had presented some plan a couple of years ago with regards to this, and the land, you know.
That's the major problem.
Every government has come to office, and they got plenty to say about this Junkanoo land. But the minute you try to get it, it's a real flicking problem. Okay? Real problem. You know, you can't get it. It ain't that easy. It's easy to speak it, but when you try to navigate yourself around it. Now, how much groups have gotten property around here? The Valley Boys? Anybody else? The Saxons got one?
Roots got it and got taken away.
Yeah,
Well,
Roots got
that's
one.
temporary.
You see, and the thing about it is that a Junkanoo group kicks its engine over January the 15th.
Pretty much.
Okay? They got 2 weeks to rest and the engine kicks over. And so you can't tell a fella in the middle of April you got to leave. I mean, he ready to fight.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You gotta start.
And so, you know, we have to make sure that these things are organized, that these groups, you know, have to be given at least a year's notice that you have to leave the building January the 1st or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so you could make your preparations for the next venue. You know, but I think, you know, it's just like we talk about, when we talk about the shacks and we talk about the venue and we talk about the land given and all this stuff, it's incumbent upon us to create this venue for Junkanoos to live, because the only way everybody could go and come back and talk about Samba Dome and this dome and the next dome, and we got Rawson Square. Ain't nothing like Rawson Square, you know.
Oh, we love Rawson Square.
I mean, Rawson Square is the biggest thing in the world.
Well, actually, for
Okay.
Junkanoo, Shirley Street is even sweeter than
Sweeter.
Rawson Square.
But I will tell you,
Most behemoths don't experience
Shirley Street, you know, Shirley Street, and I'll tell you one of the things the JCNP did a number of years ago was we made all of the seats on Shirley Street free, because we didn't think that if somebody needs to talk about a free space to watch the parade, that's why all of the sales from Shirley Street was lifted. The bleachers are still there, and people are free to just sit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And so, you know, one of the things is that the patrons on Bay Street, they have the opportunity to they don't really pay to watch the parade, they just pay to sit down.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, they only pay to sit down. Yeah, because the parades, and you know, we are very upset with gaps. I don't want the public to ever believe that we are not upset about them. We're very upset about them. Okay.
How can we alleviate those? I mean, we
Well-
try and put the groups closer together, but then it seems like the
Well.
interaction isn't there because the last group's still beating something in Rawson Square and you coming up.
No, but the music will not affect groups if they're only 10 minutes behind.
It'll help them actually.
Yeah,
Some
help
groups,
them.
Their front group.
Because the front need to
anyway.
feed. The front need to feed off the back line of a group. Okay, but here's what happens, eh? We have done a wonderful job. All the groups, they have signed on to this. We go and we have an order of entry, and we draw a number. And you get ready to go to the parade, but in your mind, you are calculating your start time.
Yes.
Okay? And this is where the problem comes. So if I got number 4, which is perceived to be the best number in the parade, 3 and 4.
3 and 4, yeah.
Okay? And I have that. Now, you know you can't take a chance if you could win.
Yeah.
So you got to tell everybody be on time. Okay? But you will find that when groups have that 3 and 4, they'll
5
say,
and
okay,
6,
who
they say, okay.
who in front of us? Okay, the Valley got 1, Colors got 1, whoever in second.
That's 2 hours, hour and a half
Yeah,
right there.
yeah. So they start adding at the time
Yeah.
that they can take you 35 minutes to get out the gate. So they calculating when they gotta be. So all the groups who right close to Bay Street, they laying down the shack over the hill, watching TV, and then when you hear who up next, then you break off running over the hill to get to the parade. Okay, this has
In
happened.
some cases, the group don't show, or
Yeah.
wasn't able to make it, and you the next group up.
Yeah, and that is what causes the gap. Okay, and so I think we have done a wonderful job in trying to rectify that. And hopefully this year, nobody will have the hiccup. You know, what makes the parade flow smoothly though, is if we have the prejudging, all of the big costumes already in the arena. You see, the big hold up is getting them to Bay Street.
Would the prejudging be the day of the parade?
We want it to be the day of the parade.
Or the Christmas day?
The afternoon, leading right into the 10 o'clock start. Okay, it's easier, but of course, you know, our weather is unpredictable. And of course, you know, the Prime Minister has challenged us to a national or international parade. Some of the members say I answer him, but you don't have to answer that. The Prime Minister said that only catastrophic conditions should hold up the parade, and he said hurricane, fire, and earthquake, but water is catastrophic to Junkanoo. Okay.
Before we move, in terms of we talking numbers, the number pickings. Yes. So, you know, that's been a major topic within the Junkanoo community. How numbers are being issued. The selection process.
Right.
You know,
The winner selecting
selecting
class.
class. And,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so let me talk to that.
Yeah.
Universally, if you look at every sport in the world, and I mean, I'm not saying Junkanoo is a sport. People refer to Junkanoo as a sport, but let's just take it for what it means. The NBA, who picks first?
The voice player.
But
They
picking players though.
But you pick who can pick first. The NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, everybody does the same thing.
Okay.
Now, this argument has come to the JCNP. We should allow the group that win to choose your number.
I disagree with that.
You see that? You disagree with that,
I
right?
disagree with that.
Listen, there's another argument then. The groups that are disqualified from the last parade, we should give you number one.
That's a show.
So you can't do that either. Okay? And so the you know, and people have made arguments for who win and who lose. The only people who are suffering from all this is the group who finished in the middle. The groups who are finishing second, third, and fourth, they have no voice. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you take, for instance, Roots has been basically number one group last 2 years. And so if you say to them, you have your choice. Boy, we can't let Roots get number 3. I mean, they got to pick it on the bike.
But the thing it is you choosing a number don't validate what group coming after you.
But
so you might have number 3, and the group might come after you and knock your head right off.
You see that's...
So you still at a disadvantage even if you pick your number.
So it don't matter what number you pick.
You see what they said?
It's just the luck of the draw.
Afraid of number
One.
You see what
Okay?
they said?
That's the bottom line.
Everybody
just don't want to start. And actually, no A group starts the parade.
No, but you see that the A groups were able to jinx the B groups
To start the parade.
And now the
It's
B
no
groups, wanted to change that back. But then they got past June the 1st, and it couldn't go
So why
past.
we don't let individuals start it?
Because
No,
the
the
individuals,
individuals are
look here, the individuals, there's 18 of them,
They got more.
and they tell you we starting on Shirley Street.
Street call.
Okay, and we in the back here.
And
Now,
all I do was start on Shirley Street at the
see-
same time.
Now, you see, individuals got playing little tricks because they by themselves.
Yeah.
But what we have done is we have tried to put them in a clump, like a group. And so I think this year, for the first time, you will see a banner that introduces the individuals. Okay? And so they will pick a number.
You want to talk about competitive section?
Oh, jeez. And
That's
they
the
just,
most competitive section in John.
And-
So why we don't use them to fill gaps rather
do.
than just
We try to.
why than just putting all of them in one section?
Oh, well,
they
Yeah,
just fill gaps on Bay.
it's
Yeah.
See, when they come down Shirley,
Really, they in one.
and then what? When they come into the hole in Frederick South,
they start this trickling.
Once the Grand Marshal have a group and he have a space, he send 4.
Okay.
Then he send another 4. That's how they fill the gaps
All
there.
right.
You see? But what we do with the D division is they pick a number in the B slot on Shirley Street. So if they pick number 7, they will be right in the middle of 2 groups coming down Shirley. So they have some music. You see?
What else can we do to fill gaps as opposed to getting them out on time? Is there, the fun groups, is there anything else we can do to provide some other form of entertainment, maybe some
Like some people been suggesting
PR.
why we don't amplify the group so the whole parade route. Well, you say
know
you
why.
amplifying your music,
Can't
right?
do it. Yeah.
So hey man,
Amplification of music is against
it's
the
the
rules.
rules. Exactly.
Okay, the rules, you'll be disqualified.
Right, exactly.
And so what we have talked about in a number of ways, and we are talking to a young man right now with regards to how we could entertain our people, okay? 2011, we approached the government at that time, and we wanted to put a car in the parade, okay? So all the people who are there, any space we have, we just can drive this car up Bay Street, okay? To make sure you have your tickets ready when we draw the raffle.
Yeah.
Now, our job is we can't buy the car at full price, and we can't give you a second-hand car.
Yeah.
We want a car duty-free, but we never got the concession, okay? And we've been trying to get the concession, but we haven't been able to get that. Hopefully, at some stage, down the road somewhere, we want to basically surprise one of our patrons with that kind of energy, But we are talking about entertainment, and the entertainment that we are seeing right now, Minister Johnson, we tried something one year where he put a rake and scrape band, a real band, right in Rawson Square. So every break, that band kick off, right? But now, you will not believe the amount of negative feedback we got from that. And the negative feedback didn't come from the people in Rawson Square. It came from the people who was down there who was mad because they didn't get it. You see what I'm saying? So it means that when we put that entertainment there, we got to put one by Royal Bank to take care of that crowd.
That means you need to amplify that through the parade.
Yeah, but they can see the performance.
right?
So you need to go to the big screen. And then if you notice the next year, we put the big screens up. But the big screens, they can't see them. Okay? Now, our sponsors came through the following year, and they put a big screen on the big building, and they put a big screen on Shirley Street. The people on Shirley Street were very happy year before last. And we didn't put it there, and I was so afraid to walk down Shirley Street during the parade because they tell me, one year you go up and the next year you come down. But it's all expense, and it's all what could work for us. And we appreciate whatever the sponsors try to do to uplift the parades.
And there's also, it's a two-way street. That means the sponsors get something back in return.
Yeah.
They get to advertise their product, etc. Speaking of revenue, I've always said this. Every Junkanoo practice is now turned into an event. If we had a quote-unquote sort of kind of location where we could all practice in different days, something like the same village or whatever we was talking about, that would help support each individual group.
But let me say something to you about revenue raising. Of all of the people, is there anybody that you know that don't like Junkanoo?
Yeah, I know. I got a couple of ex-girlfriends.
Okay, who don't like Junkanoo? You cause that,
That's
though.
me, yeah.
You cause that.
That's me.
But it don't mean that they don't like it, eh? But we have, let's say we have 300,000 people, and we have approximately 50% of them who love Junkanoo. 150,000. Do you think that those 150,000 people will donate $1 to Junkanoo every month?
Indirectly, without willingly saying I have to give this $1 to Junkanoo.
$12 a year.
Yeah, I think so.
You think that'll happen, right? Now, because we are talking about starting a drive that will allow people to basically send money to a foundation that allows for us to kick Junkanoo into full gear.
I don't know if they'll actually be willing to give $12 to go to foundation. They want something in return. They
Oh,
want
they can get it in
entrance
return.
and- Okay.
They can get it in return because when the 150,000 people, see, we couldn't do a number of things, because raising money too is sending the parades pay-per-view. But now pay-per-view is like gone to the side now because you could stream it and get it, right? But when it was pay-per-view, it needed a cabinet decision. We wanted to send those parades to the Family Islands and all over the place for $5.99, okay? And we would have gotten the revenue more than what we got for people sitting down on Bay Street, okay? But we were denied, okay?
So let me help me understand. If you were in charge of Junkanoo with Providence, why do you need approval from?
Because
Government.
you are in partnership with the government. We have an
We need to
agreement.
fire our partners. Man.
We have an agreement with the government of the Bahamas, and it basically said, government, here's what our job is, and JCNP, here's what your job is, okay? And so when you come up with an idea outside of the concept of the agreement, like a pay-per-view, you need the approval. It's the same thing with the price of Junkanoo tickets. The JCNP cannot increase the prices of the Junkanoo tickets on their own. They need their partners to agree. And I will tell you that for 9 consecutive years, it's been no. Okay? That
Actually,
we will,
they decreased it at one point.
yeah, that it was decreased from $75 in 2009 because of the hurricanes, and it stayed at $45 in Rawson Square from then to now. And so the only way we have any increase on that is from VAT. And of
And
course,
that doesn't belong to us.
it doesn't belong to us.
No, that's the government.
The last 2 years, it was $3.48 that goes to the government on every Rawson Square ticket. And this year, it will be $5.40 that goes to the government for every Rawson Square ticket this year. Okay.
Wow. Well, that's just, you got to render unto Caesar what is due unto Caesar, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know this doesn't have anything directly to do with you, but in terms of themes, do you feel we too repetitive in our themes? Like you say birds, you want birds from 3D. We still bringing birds today
Yeah.
in abundance. We still
Yeah.
bringing fish in abundance. I mean,
There
it's always good to bring a Bahamian theme, but
are a number of go-to themes, right, that groups have when they get in trouble, eh? and of course, your group, when they get in trouble, you know where to go. You see, and groups have that comfort zone. So if I get in trouble, I off the board for about 2 years without a win. I got to go to my trump card, okay? And if your trump card is Indian
Gone.
or Africa, or China,
yeah.
all right, you got to hit the stride. And you get it, and they are beautiful presentations,
They are.
okay? And you can't beat them because everybody has done them 10 times over, and every time you do it, you can make it a little better, okay? I was involved with a group that challenged us to conceptually look at a theme that nobody could do, okay?
Nobody's done before.
Okay, because Jackson challenged you. He said, you could not go in a one-family design team meeting. See, I don't think people would have believed their eyes if that had happened. But that is why we had that design team, and the one rule, you cannot be a member of that team if you say it can't happen. Okay?
I'd love for you to challenge your members of JCNP to do the same.
Yeah, but a lot of our members, like you say, see now, understand now, they are custodians of this cultural affair, all right? And they love Junkanoo just like everybody else. A lot of them get caught in their natural comfort zones, okay? And so when the fight starts on whether it would affect me on a particular point, okay? And that's when the discussion starts, because the discussion not starting to say, let's discuss this point. You are discussing a point because of this, I got to make sure my members comfortable with this, if we're going to change anything, okay? And you take, for instance, when the rule was changed, when the step-downs came in with the wheels, when we reduced the off-the-shoulder costumes from 10 to 8, and the step down, step in at 2, mandatory, was a big problem.
Because technically the step down requires more work and effort.
Yeah, that was a big problem. Before you put them on the parade, you always had 6, 8 of them. But the minute it became technical that you have the mandatory have 2 of them, that became a problem. And so, you know, it wasn't a problem because the step downs was a big problem to get them going on wheels. But then when the off the shoulders diminished too. See, in every A division group, there are over 50 off the shoulders. It's almost impossible.
This is a traditional off the shoulder, hot shoulder piece.
Yeah.
3 feet off the shoulder.
Yeah, it's almost impossible for a judge to judge 50 of these costumes. 350 costumes in a parade, and sometimes more. And each one of them have an identification number.
Right.
The
I just actually go look for that person.
yeah,
I haven't had experience before.
the conversation at the JCNP is, gentlemen, if we only need 8 of these to qualify,
Only give away 10.
just let me give you 8 numbers.
Yeah.
But if you only give 8 numbers,
And you
So
got
you
3
got
or 4 will get
you
messed
got 42 other people saying, boy, I gotta have one then, you see how I look? And so you could never make that happen. Okay, and that's when you say challenge the JCNP members, that they are the kind of decisions that they have to make on behalf of their membership.
For the group, right.
You see,
Like
because,
lobbying, eh?
yeah, they got to lobby.
Right.
They have to lobby, say, man, this can hurt me, man, because if I give up 20 of my dancers, this thing will make no sense.
Yeah.
You know, they ain't taking one for the team. You know,
everybody wants a
For
number,
me,
eh?
yeah, they want a number on that costume because that number is an opportunity to win a prize, and not just a prize, a financial prize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and without a number, you can't get,
Which bring us to the next question now.
Mhm.
The increased seed, the increased prize funding the Prime Minister announced.
Right.
You know,
We have gotten, we have heard all of the deliveries from Parliament. The Prime Minister has set forth a music prize for $10,000, and for the B division $5,000, and this is going to go from here to Freeport as well. Now, just let me speak to that first, because in a small discussion at JCNB, we're basically trying to, because you have to go back to the Prime Minister and say, can we change the perception of this? Okay, rather than having just one big $10,000 prize, could we just cut this up in 3 pieces?
so you go first and second.
So you go
third.
first, second, third, so it's a 5,000, 3,000, 2,000. Because let me give you the challenges in the discussion of how groups feel. Your group is good at music, eh? So leave the costumes home,
And just come for music.
come for the music. The collect music is still in play. And so if you win the music, you are basically winning 2 mornings, you are winning $27,000.
Just on music.
Just on music.
So you ain't watch, you don't focusing on
So
that.
why you come in with costume, and that's what you just make with costume and everything together?
Yeah.
So why you doing that? Okay, so you have to technically make a change,
Yeah.
because if you got one of these 5 big groups who have all won the music, they could basically say, man, look here, let's just go for the music. Okay, and you put 2 boxes in the road for your leads. Okay, and you get couple little shoulders costume from last year.
And
Throw them in the road. You come fourth.
Yeah.
So you come fourth now, and the prize double is $28,000. So that's $56,000 you carrying home plus the music money.
Really?
So you that's why we're talking about once the prize is doubled and the music prize come into play, you have to sit down and make sure that is done properly.
That's interesting. I wasn't even thinking.
Thinking down the line.
Yeah, so we have to speak to the Prime Minister about that. We can't talk to nobody else about that.
So only the increase coming in and for only the increase coming in music
Though,
prize money.
the prize money is going to be doubled.
Okay.
So-
Straight across the board.
Across the board. Our prize package is now $380,000.
Okay.
So we're anticipating $760,000 would be the prize packet plus the $20,000, the $30,000 for the music in New Providence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, recently there's been this little buzz going around on social media about brass and Junkanoo. Mr. Fred Ferguson posted a few weeks ago, said he woke up this morning with this thought in his head: what would Junkanoo be without brass? And it went on to be a very interesting discussion. You know, a lot of people posted, well, brass actually brings Junkanoo together. It actually tells a story. But he was speaking in terms of the music, in terms of the music not being on par.
The presentation.
Or the presentation.
I don't speak to music because I'm not a musician.
And neither am I.
And I will tell you the one thing, I know good Junkanoo music, because if my foot don't move, it ain't mean nothing wrong with the music. Something wrong with me, okay? But Junkanoo groups display their music, but one of the things that we have seen in the position that we're in is our good sounding music. We have had international people pepper our music, and they're basically saying that they don't understand what happened there. And I think when Chris Justilian speaks about it, there's opposition, okay? Because people don't want to hear it. Man, that sound good. Yeah, it sounds good. But internationally, if your music is not up to par, I think it's time for us to address it, okay? And get mad, but come in a space and get mad and address it, okay? Because the more of us who are sitting around a table discussing how we can make it better is better than just throwing these little tidbits, comments from behind these masks, okay? Because people are afraid to stand up. I had a young lady who said to me, she said, Silbert, we have a young fella in our shack. I mean, he could judge this music, okay? Because this guy could tinkle with all this stuff and know all this stuff, but this guy is not a trained musician. And so if we go ahead and we put him on Bay Street and he wins, he judges the music, you want to see something? Let the wrong group win, okay? and then all of a sudden, hell break loose, right? Last year, we had a wonderful team of judges judge music, okay? All qualified. All qualified. There was no person in the music judging section that was not qualified. And at the end of the day, in first position, Genesis. But they gotta be joking. you know what I'm saying? But Genesis hit what they had to hit where they had to hit it. You understand what I'm saying? You can't break down or you float away.
Play a sour note.
You can't do that in zone 1. And because you cross in zone 1 to zone 2, you look around, you ain't see no judge. You can't do that. You know, and so, you know, because we had those people who I think did a fantastic job, you know, groups feel like they were shortchanged. I prefer a man off the street to judge me. Why? Because you like me. You like me in paparazzi. We judging music because it sound good. But we ain't judging music. Yeah, to us. But we ain't judging music for the concept that music should be. And I think, Chris Justilian, I think, is one of our premier musicians here, right? And I think we have to lean on people who have the expertise. Now, the fellows who beating this music and stuff, they got a voice too. I'm not saying cut them out the conversation. I think there has to be a teaching curve that says, hey, look, guys, come in here. Let us make sure everybody understand. Now, you got power bass, and you got this flat bass. Okay, some bass could rip your chest up, all right? And then some bass just smooth, all right? So is it the smooth bass that is good, or is this real boom, and used to say bottom, all right? And I remember in my group, first time I hear a big bass in our group, plenty boom, bro. I tell you, that's it. That's what we need. That can win.
They say you got rushes, and then you have performance.
Yeah. And so I just think, the Rumpa Pum Pums and the Chris Justilians and the Corey and all these musicians, Squid and Fred and all them who are in these music blocks, I just think the JCNP should be responsible for putting together a Junkanoo conclave, a music conclave, to allow the voices to come together, okay? So that we can have a full discussion, so nobody feels left out or shortchanged, and make sure that we are, look here, our local standard is 100%, but our international standard might be at 80%. Okay, and I think our job is to try to get it up to the highest standard that we can, both home and abroad.
That's excellent, and now you let us know that the rules can be changed after June
1st.
June 1st.
No, but let me
because
just.
there was a conversation also about having a brass-free zone.
Right.
Junkanoo is perform in a zone between the start of the parade. They want it between the start of the parade and Russell Square. They don't want it out behind Russell Square. They don't want it on Shirley Street.
Right.
Your thoughts? I mean, it's not gonna happen this year.
Don't bother me. Whatever they want to do, I will.
Whatever they want to do.
See, because
I don't want you to say you for or you against it. I mean, your thoughts on having a section.
I love raw music.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what important.
See, I was a music maker.
Yeah. So
I was ringing on the side of Lord Frog, and Pell was behind him, and I'm talking about rhythm. And you ringing your bells, even if you didn't want to ring them, your hand was moving. Okay, and so you talking about raw drum music makers.
That's that Ben and Picky today.
Yeah, man. Oh yeah.
Okay. Man, with music.
And you got all these guys right here who could beat and ring bells. The raw music to me is really, once the brass shut off, there are some groups that can't perform.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the brass shut, you say, what that is? But if that brass come up on top of that, you don't get how bad it is, but you bring that together, it really sounds good. And so if they want the zone, the groups have to agree that they want that zone. The conversation has come up, okay? But see, for each group,
it's a plus and a minus.
Right.
You have some groups who
Yeah,
can't do well without
some
the brass.
people can say, now, if I shut off my brass, but I can be in deep trouble.
So I ain't voting for that.
Yeah, I ain't voting for that.
You know, some who say, boy, this is like in our
this
favor.
me.
We got a weak brass, but
then,
we got a good back line.
And so, when the vote comes to the table, and it's 19 votes, because the two individuals wouldn't vote on that.
Yeah.
It's only the groups with music sections who would vote on that. And once they vote, that's an odd number, so you'll have a winner. But if somebody is absent, or if they tell somebody to be absent, and the vote is tied, then it stays the way it is, and then it comes back next year. You see, and the thing about it is that just that you want the Junkanoo community to understand, the JCNP works from your representatives, okay? Your representatives are there to put forward your issues and what you see and what we need to change. One of the things we did this year, which I think is working wonderful, is that we have a PR person who is on the executive committee. But what we did, in essence, this year is to try to get a PR person from every group to form the PR committee.
That makes sense.
You see what I'm saying?
Not so long ago, no group had a PR person.
Exactly. And so now we are
5 years ago.
you're growing, and so these little decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
And so once you put that little structure in place, you know, we have now created a little thing we call a work stipend. So, you know, not to kill your time. You know, you are at every area, you snapping all night, and nobody comes and say, Paparazzi, here, get one soda. Okay? For you to get that soda, you got to sell one picture. Okay? And so our job is we trying to see if we can hang on to partners to get this kind of thing going, to get the work done, but it all has to come under the auspices of the JCNP. Okay? Because as you know, in our parades, you know, the official photography has to come into play, and if we ain't got one of them, you can't present it. You can't bring your own pictures, okay? Because, you know, they say you Photoshop a picture, okay? And all these things happen, but as we continue to develop, you know, in this embryo stage that we're in, in the stage that we're in at the level the JCNP is right now, it started in 2010, okay? Because all of the different committees that have come into play and all of those that have chairmen who are basically have all these different components of Junkanoo working. You know, we have an outreach department. Their job is very simple, you know. They're basically encouraging each group to do one outreach a year. Okay? And our job is we subsidize that with a small stipend for each group, you know.
So do you think Junkanoo is at that position it should be right now?
Look here, our maturity is still far away. Okay, we are still very, very clannish. You know, I would say that the JCNP at the level that it's at right now could have been leaps and bounds in front of where it is today. We have people who pride themselves on being production blockers, okay, and of course that happens too, because people have told me, you know, that because it happened under my watch, it ain't happen, okay, and so you have to just say, okay, no problem, man, you know, but my thing, it ain't because of me, you know, my thing is every member of the JCNP, and I say this undeniably, they know I work my butt off, okay? They cannot go one step or two steps and I'm not there to support, okay? I attend 142 meetings a year, okay, in the JCNP, okay? And to me, that's a pleasure for me, because you are there on the ground with the development, and right now we are in the transition period of the JCNP. We are dealing with people like myself who have been in Junkanoo for 40 plus years, and now we have a younger crew who have been in 15 years and under. And now they are basically hanging on to our gown tails, and it's our job to take them to the next step, okay? Because it's them who's gonna be, that's the future, okay? And the JCNP have roughly about 12 of these young fellas and ladies who could keep this dream moving.
Sounds good. You know, in this particular show, we always have a segment, and we say, if you were Silbert, what would you like to see Junkanoo go, or what would you do differently in Junkanoo? And seeing that we have Silbert here,
we ask every guest that same question.
guest.
Yeah,
So,
boy, I will tell you, based on what I've been challenged to do in the last 9 years, not what I've done prior to that, but based on what I have done in the last 9 years, one of the critical components is funding. Okay, I would do everything to make sure that Junkanoo, that this craft is funded properly. Okay, it's underfunded badly. We expect so much from these kids, okay? And if I were to say to you, and just let me get this off my chest, we did a exercise for the conclave where we projected that there are about 5 of these A division groups that spend $300,000 to get the bay. We projected that also that we have 6 of these B division group that spend upward of 150,000. 2 of the A groups are at about 200,000. It boils down to, by the time as we do the math, the Junkanoo groups, along with its corporate sponsors, are pumping $12 million into our parades. Now, the government presented at the conclave as well, and the government is only putting in $1.2 million. That don't
No.
Okay. On the back end, I received a report from the university that was done under the College of the Bahamas, where they did a projection of the labor for Junkanoo, and it pushed the cost of Junkanoo per year to $28 million. Okay, because it's about $15 million in labor. Now, when we talk about this thing, and you have the energy that is put in by the Junkanoo groups, and the amount of work these leaders have to be involved with, the amount of personalities they have to be involved with. I mean, people worry about me. I just go to bed and sleep every night. Okay, I have no problems. Okay, I love the people I work with, whether they're good or they're bad. But I know that the one thing that we all have in common is we love Junkanoo. Every group have one motto, and I totally agree. We want to win. Okay, and that's it. You know, group have no, well, we only want to compete. We want to win, and so you know their desire to want to make that happen, and so it makes my job easy. Okay, in terms of trying to get it out there, because I think our major thing, and like you are, my only thing would be to try to see if we can bring this community to a point without having to beg, because the JCNP has not received $1. The groups receive the money from the government. Okay, each A division groups get $30,000 seed funding. The B groups get 15, and some of the B groups get 4, and the individuals get, I think, 750 or whatever. But the government subsidized the groups and the individuals. But as far as the JCNP is concerned, the actual operation, the government has not given the JCNP $1.
Wow.
What, $1? Okay, and we have made every season successful. Okay, I mean, we don't have good balance sheets, eh? Okay, we have a loss every year, but our loss is basically recoverable within the first 90 days.
To get someone chime in, so is the government also taking into consideration concession given to each Junkanoo group? You say, although it's not cash money, it's also a form of funding.
Well, yes, and you know, one of the things is that groups are, the Junkanoo groups at the JCNP has asked us, you know, what are we going to do but the 12% VAT, right? What are you going to do about it?
Pay it.
Because if it was, if the consideration was made to double your prize money and give you $10,000 additional in music, at the same time you're supposed to say we taking it off. We taking the VAT away.
Yeah.
And the tickets you selling, we ain't charging the VAT on them. All that decision was made in the finance meeting, okay, at OPM. You know, so if those things were not considered, okay, Junkanoo groups still have some duty-free concessions, okay, that they have to use, but you're not going to get away from this 12%, okay?
You still getting, you basically, that same that Bob they giving you, they taking it right back away.
Yep.
That's all happening.
I mean,
you basically in a losing situation.
the consideration for the impact of the 12% VAT, we will not see that impact until we complete this year, because then the groups will make their reports. And once the groups make their reports, they're going to say, well, this impacted us like this, this impacted us like that, and then our job will be that we will compile the reports and we will try to pen a letter to the government advising that it was adverse in this area and that area, and so we would like to have a discussion to make some adjustments.
Interesting.
Right. So basically, how much percent of material we basically using as duty free?
Well, I know that once you write, every group, once they place an order, they have to write into the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, who will then give you that stamp of approval that you ain't buying nothing other than Junkanoo material. And then I think you get that concession. Okay?
So you say aluminum tubes, not rods, aluminum tubes, like square tubes.
That's considered Junkanoo material.
So
Yeah.
they will get duty free
Yeah.
on that.
Okay? Because it's actually now going to need your group to present that letter with your TIN number and all of your, because at the JCNP right now, we expect every group in the JCNP has to be formally elevated, okay? You have to be registered with the government of the Bahamas, okay? Because you will not be able to get any kind of money from the government if you don't qualify, okay? So you have to have all your ducks in a row here. So once you ask the government for the concession, that you have all the pertinent information you need to basically put in place.
So, with all this being said, why they just can't do the duty free on the car?
Well, I think now here's something that's interesting, because you know the hybrid business now is what, 10%? Okay, if you bring in a new hybrid car now, you only pay 10% duty. Now, Junkanoo groups, I think if they were bringing in vehicle to help with their program, you could also apply for that. Okay? You could apply for that under that same concession. But of course, you know, the groups here, they ain't going to buy no $80,000 van. They can get one $2,000 used one right from around here.
I can get booed up anyway.
Yeah, fellas can run it into something, you know. Yeah.
It's amazing how Junkanoo has changed over the years. I mean, speaking of the vehicles to help the groups move around. 'Cause I mean, drummers now, they show up at the strap.
Yeah, because these things are heavy, and you know when
Storage.
Yeah, see, you know, one of the things that you have to respect with the groups and their organization is that our country feeds on Junkanoo at these events. Okay, if you go to Summerfest, if you go to Fox Hill, if you go to Labor Day, if you go to Independence, wherever Junkanoo happens, when you see that group show up on Bay Street with no costume, let's say Independence morning, and you see 400 members show up, it costs that group roughly $3,000 to mobilize that group. Okay? Yeah, to get to Bay Street. And you know, they get a little stipend to show up.
And that's an offer.
Okay? Yes, yeah. And so when you take a look at what they do to make that happen, and especially if they go to Summerfest, and Summerfest this year, I think, paid the A Division group $6,000 to perform, you know, and they had to bring real energy, big banner, costume, and I tell you.
So, and I always just get a licking when I tell people, man, they only paying this, man.
Yeah.
You know what it costs us to mobilize?
Yeah, you know what it costs you to get there?
I even saw
On-
the stand of the night.
When they did the summer festival, every week the group had to come with a different section. So that's 4 weeks you got to bring basically your group to the summer festival, and you get $10,000.
The mobilization for Junkanoo groups is quite costly.
And
Okay.
people don't see that.
Now, in the old days, and I go, you know, when my grandchildren say the olden days, right? I mean, I don't think I've been the olden days, but you remember, I remember when we were getting ready to head out to the parade from West Street, you will see all the fellas walking over the hill with their drums on their back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay? But today, you say it don't happen.
No.
Each group got a box truck, and you stack your 40 drums in there, and they secure. You drive them to the parade. You got to put them around the fire now.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And all the fella do is show up at his strap. He walk up to it.
She sound good.
She ready. Okay? And he pick it up, strap it up. Now, if you want him to do more than that, you got to sign a contract. Okay?
Because that's what.
And that's where it comes in, you know.
Yeah.
And our groups have to be commended for the way they show up. And people really don't know what it takes for them to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
So, speaking of contracts, do you foresee that being the future of Junkanoo, where individuals move from one group to the next and sign maybe a 4 or 5 year contract because of their skills? Because we know that people are moving around.
Earlier,
and people are being paid in Junkanoo for their skills.
Earlier, I made a comment about the music makers and the prodigal sons.
And that's what you just
I didn't go past it, right?
Yeah.
But once they have a major sponsor, they could sign a contract with your best builder.
Yeah.
okay? And all they ask him to do is produce a winner,
Yeah.
okay? And they know the theme, and they can build a costume in about 2-3 weeks, okay? And then you just get your people to paste it, eh? But until they have the kind of funding that these other mega groups have, they're not going to be able to hire the best labor.
So what we're saying now is it is labor for hire today.
Of course.
Okay. All right. That's
Of course.
basically what we're
Okay.
out there.
And you know,
And like you said, it is a business.
for a number of years, if groups don't have a brass to go down Bay Street,
Oh yeah, you
Hire
what they do?
brass.
You hire the brass, they sitting there waiting.
This is why I'm so
Right.
proud of my Foxhill Congos.
Yeah, you know,
Because they have a young
they have their own
young
makeup.
brass section, and they have a young man right there who's determined to hold his own practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do what it takes, get it done. Closing thoughts, because we well over our quota here today.
Yeah. I mean,
Did we talk everything? Y'all got everything out?
just-
Probably not. We got to get you back.
but I think we get a chunk information, and the people I guess they appreciate that because they get a lot of things they probably was thinking, and one of the acts we probably covered today for them.
Yeah.
So you actually get them at ease a bit,
Yeah.
and some people start to see things differently now. When you talk, when people know facts, they start to adjust and see things differently. So
Right.
now they start questioning some other people now
Right.
why this been happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you probably can cause a bunch of questions get asked in some other arenas.
What should happen? That's exactly what should happen.
So you startle the water a bit. So so the target's not you no more. The target now somebody else.
But you know, it's good.
Yeah.
Because Junkanoo is that kind of intrigue.
Yeah.
Because if you come with good news, I ain't fired up.
Yeah.
But if you come with bad news that I gotta go fight for,
Yeah.
then you all excited. You see, and that's all a part of the makeup.
Yeah.
And so Silbert Ferguson as an individual has never really gone and say, I don't do this and I don't do that, right? If that would can make you better, then go ahead and do it. Blame me, okay? But everybody would come to realize that the organization that they subscribe to, which is the JCNP, they pay their dues to be a member. Our job is to represent them, okay? They will know who their representatives are. This year, we put out a supplement every year on December 15th, which have all the judges and all the officials of the parade and everything. This year, we're going to put out all the representatives of the groups in that. So your
Exactly.
group,
You know who to blame.
yeah, you know who you got to be talking to.
Speaking of the judges, I know it's something that's crossed
Okay.
my mind.
Yeah, all right, let's get that on.
Last year there was a lot of controversy about certain individuals who were chosen to be judges. They were former Junkanoos of particular Junkanoo groups or whatever the case may be. But on the other hand, we asking for former Junkanoos to be judges.
Right.
So take me for instance. I have not participated in Junkanoo. I've been in Junkanoo paparazzi now for the last 15 years.
Right.
People still call me a Valley Boy.
Of course.
I call the group name. You didn't call I call the group name.
Yeah.
And if I go to be a judge, I almost can guarantee I will be vetted out.
You will not make it to the second round.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Wow.
You will
But
not make it to
there
the
are other people who are, but you see, they're not as popular as I am. That's
Now,
the difference.
let us
There's
talk
other
about-
Junkanoos who I know as Junkanoos who I see in judging
We have time to talk all this?
a category.
Okay.
This is a little extra.
Let us get it. Let us get it to make sure everybody understands how the system works.
Right.
What has happened now
Is that the JCNP has just put the PMT August the 1st. That's when we put them to work. Okay, they have gotten their official letters, and now they have started their work. They are getting the applications ready, they're getting the course ready, they're doing all those things. What we do at the JCNP is we approve the application for the judges. So that application will go out now, and the hint of that application is we want to gather at least 120 applicants. Now, the Roots Junkanoo group, for the last 5 years, have said to everybody, why we keep ducking and hiding, why every group just don't send 5 people. So we could stop blaming each other for, what they call it, having the pool stack. Okay, so everybody have 5. Okay, so the pool wouldn't be stacked. But every year, no, No, no. This coming Wednesday is a meeting to finalize that position.
Can I come to that meeting?
No, you can't come to the general sitting. Okay? The groups will discuss it. They've already gone to their groups, so they'll come back Wednesday with a final decision. And if the final decision is we'll go with a two-tiered system, which will be the qualified judge and the judges from the general public. Once the applications come in, we have a thing there where we do not vet the qualified judges, but they are subject to an interview by the groups. Okay? And so all of the other judges are put on a big billboard, so paparazzi and top class on the board, and the minute they see you, big X, pop, pop, out of here. Okay? You ain't gonna be there. So they will take you out. Each group has, in the pre-vet, in the A division, they have 6 people they can remove from the pool. So you take 6, 7, 42, right? So we down to 80.
So, okay, yeah, we take 6 out, right, still up, and they transfer it.
Yeah, but see, but here it is. What we do in the vet process is that you are not allowed to collaborate. So you cannot collaborate with me from another group. So we end up vetting the same people.
So you're 6.
You see? So you know, we know who you is. We know your affiliation. But on your application, you have said, I'm affiliated with the Valley Boys. I rushed for 15 years. But we don't care. Okay? So we still have you as one of our X. So we X you, and then the B groups come in, and they X who they need to X out, because everybody got the same little game, and they send people to this pool, and so people vet them out the pool. Now, when the vetting is over, we are presented with a final list from the parades management team that says, you gave us 120 applications. After the vet process, here is your 62. Okay, that happens just with every year, half of the pool get vetted out. Once you have the pool, then they get their first meeting, the course dates, what's expected, la 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 la. You go through that. You have to pass the exam now. Okay? And so when you don't pass the exam, then they send the list back and say, these 8 people failed the exam. We need 66 people to judge this parade. So the JCNP have a big board that says, what if? What if we have 50? What if we have 40? What if we, last year, we went to the parade with, I think, 44. Okay, 44. And so, what it means is that the adjustments have to be made. Instead of having 4 zones, 2 on Bay Street and 2 on Shirley, you now have to cut out 1 zone on Shirley. Okay? Because you ain't have enough judges. Every discipline in the road, music, costume, and performance, will have 2 judges in every zone. So you could do the math, and you could see just how much we need.
So man, that zone we are calling them in the main pump in that zone. Right. Even because nobody is in that zone.
So instead of having 8 judges to judge music, we got 6. And that's how the pool develops, and all of the groups get the information. You know exactly what's happening. This ain't no, gentlemen, and your audience. This ain't nothing that has happened under the bed.
Yeah.
This happens in the front of everybody. And then once we have the pool, the parade management team then take the judges' names, and they give each judge 5 numbers. And they make up 5 different lists. And they number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And everybody who works in the tally room has to sign the back of that sealed envelope sometime November the 15th, whenever they sign it. And it's put under lock and key. On the night of the parade, they spin the barrel, and they pull out 1 of those. And that's when you know where you judging that morning. Okay? Now, when they said last year that Roots stacked the pool, and Roots wipe out the Boxing Day parade, how could they do it with the number? And then New Year's morning, you came back, and you pull out another number, and Roots come 40. But everything was okay when they come forward. But because they kill you Boxing Day, something was wrong. And you know, Junkanoos all get emotional like that, eh? But the thing about it is the system is prepared in such a way that don't care if you believe you stacked the pool. You don't know where they're going. Okay? Okay, you don't know where they're going. There have been instances where we've gotten reports that people who were affiliated with the system work Boxing Day and rush with a group New Year's morning. Now, that should never happen. But we don't know if it can happen. A person commit to you, and then all of a sudden you see them in the road New Year's morning. Could they come back to you next year? No way. Okay? That person's name is written in red in the JCNP. They could never compete or come back to work in that capacity, ever, right? Now, we have had instances where if you look at groups, and because of my experience and seeing the pools, I could go to just about every group and I could give you a pool of judges from all those groups of about 100 people who have all judged before, but now they're rushing in the groups. Okay? And so when you, yeah, so when you see that, all you say is, you know, did you do the best job you could? Because that's what people are saying. People are saying that, you know, that person was a judge last year, now they're rushing in the group this year. So did that group win last year? Yeah. That's why they win. And that's how we label people. You know, but at the JCNP, we never look at it like that. All we see is that a person offered themselves. You had the opportunity to remove them. You didn't. And they went through the process. They made the final cut. We put them in the parade. You have the right to challenge their scores. If you don't challenge the scores, then everything all right. You see what I'm saying? So whether they rush with a group next year has nothing to do with us.
No control over you.
Nothing.
Now,
Nothing.
yeah, pretty much.
That killed the judges, right? That was straight?
That was straight.
That's straightforward.
Mr. Producer, have any questions? No questions, Producer? Okay. Excellent.
That's what that was. You said we cover most of the grounds. Well, if you ain't covered there, let us know.
Well, you know, anything that you think your listening audience has issues with, that you need to be explained, I will leave myself open to you right up to parade time for whenever you're doing it, to basically come back and discuss whatever it is, you know, because we really need people to stop the idle talk of this and that and who do this and who do that, because we need to, like I just said, people, let me invite you to the meeting and you'll see how it operates. Now, you could be my guest. Come in and you see just how they operate. It is no big thing. The minister came into our General Assembly. He see how it operate. And all these people told the minister all these things about me. But the minister told them, but he gave all you the opportunity to speak and you ain't speak. You know?
That's how we go.
Yeah, we just like to talk. We have meetings outside the meetings. I am not an outside the meeting person. I'm an inside the meeting person. Now, if you,
Outside meeting.
yeah, don't count. If you lobbying outside for something when you come inside, that's your right. You lobby for that as best you can. You know.
There you go.
Well, it's been wonderful. And like I said, if you need me, I just wanted to add one caveat to the rules. Our rules are subject to change before the parade. And the only reason they would be subject to change is anything catastrophic. So if there's a hurricane and costumes get damaged and this can happen, you know, we come and we adjust the rules and say, this don't.
You can't. Ain't nobody costume this morning because everybody get costume at the short.
You could bring them, no problem.
Thank you, Judge.
Everybody's talking about, we're talking about the materials and trying to costumes, waterproof, whatever the case may be. But we ain't rushing around unless we already started rushing.
Yeah.
We ain't
You
started
ain't got
rushing
it.
around.
You ain't going no there. And I tell
If
you,
we ain't come down, you ready on the road. That's different.
the reason you ain't going is because the most expensive decoration is your feathers. Okay? And once the water hit them, they finish.
So you don't even think it's about craftsman, what hours you put in actually pasting the costume?
That you will go. Let me tell you something.
Probably go on.
I know about being juiced up to get ready to go. Okay? And rain or no rain, let's go. And like Junkanoo was saying, you know, let's be respectful about it. We say, let's go kill these fellas, right? But it means nothing. You know, it's just a competition. you know, and once you are juiced up and you ready to go and you hit the road and the rain come, you know what Junkanoo to say when the rain come? We bring the rain down. You know, that's how good it sounds. The rain can stay away. You know?
That's the bragging right.
Yeah, we bring the rain down, you know, and basically that's how it works. But nobody likes for it to rain on the parade. So we have a rain rule, and if it is raining, you know, the way the parade ends is all of the leaders will congregate in one area once the rain starts to say what we can do once the parade slows down. Yeah, so we make that decision then.
Alrighty.
Like you say, if you hear anything, then you love to invite him back. For the people who didn't have the information,
That's the most important.
you know what I mean?
Yep. I learned a lot.
Yeah, same here.
All right.
Every day is a learning process.
All right.
Yep.
You know? Yeah, also we'd like to thank everybody here for tuning in to Double Rock. This has been an informative show today. You know, stay tuned for us when we come back next week. We get that, you know, it's still they slated. Might be a fireworks show next week.
It's a real fireworks show for next week. It's almost a piggyback of some of our conversation we had today. I'm supposed to be getting British Custodian and several of the brass leaders from the A groups.
Okay.
To discuss
Wonderful.
brass and music and writing music for Junkanoo.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll come off. If not, I'll just have Chris and maybe one or two of those guys. But that's what we're working on for next week.
Alright, so that should be powerful
Good.
next week. Like I said, like to thank all you all for tuning in today. Like I said today, anyone knows, right? You didn't get all the news on the way. It's probably sponsored by gas, my friends, the gas solar house, the air condition. We can be outside in the sun. And you know what BPL bill getting on these days. Well, if anybody that you buying car and they face, you know, there's a problem. You know what I mean? Thank friends and gas. You know, the gas up allowing us to use the space each and every week. You know what I mean? Also, sponsored by Party Crashers, best mixed drinks in the world. Sponsored also by Daily Lip Production. All your video production needs, drone shots, whatever you need, small commercials. You need a little party shoot, a little demo. Nice. We broadcast live. Daily Lip production here for Double Rock. Daily Lip Productions on the road. So you could, you know. Also sponsored by Junkanoo. You know, Junkanoo. That is the latest installation of Junkanoo Paparazzi. You can find Junkanoo.com. Go check your photos. You know, we always have a pop-up shop here at Gas Up.
And I want to put in one more thing, but Netty Lip Production. Netty Lip Productions is responsible for all the live streaming that's been coming over JNN and Junkanoo News Network.
Off the streets.
Right, so
Yep.
if you have a production that you need to get out to the world, Netty Lip Productions.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep, modern technology.
Boom, just like that. So just like that, we done double rock the place. This is being brought to you by I Top Class, my producer, Mr. Silence.
Our guest,
Silbert Ferguson.
and Paparazzi.
See, you know, we can see you all next week for another live rock up session.
See ya.
We out here.